Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Oddly Enough Podcast. How's everybody doing? Is everybody well? I realize I never stopped to ask you all how you're doing, and I really do hope that everybody's doing fantastic. And I ask you that because recently I was asked by an acquaintance of mine, how are you? And I said, fine, thanks, how are you? And the response I got was, I'm doing well by design. And I loved that. I'm doing well by design, because it's really no accident to be well. We are all intentionally working every single day to design the life that we want. Well by design, man, when I heard that, I said, sir, I'm stealing that and I'm going to put it on a coffee mug or a t-shirt. I would buy the crap out of that, and it ought to exist. And I'm going to make it so. Speaking of mugs, have you checked out my latest link on my link tree, which I will add in this bio here, that shows you my new merchandise site? And there's more to come, so I know there's just one mug. Maybe it's a little premature to advertise it, but I was just excited, so here we are. Check it out. All right, so I truly do hope all is well, and I'm curious, for starters, before we get started on this week's topic, were you able to check out last week's episode, and were you able to incorporate the exercise to audit your time? I hope that you did, and I will say that I am still using the Toggle app. I know it was something that I introduced as a new resource that I hadn't utilized before, and I love the tracking that it allows you to do. So if you are data-driven, data junkie, like apparently I am, I never knew that I was, but I'm eating it up. And remember, the exercise was to focus in on the activities you're doing for 3, 5, or 7 days, and to log it either manually or through an app like Toggle. And what I found that maybe you found as well in the exercise, if you were able to conduct it, is that it made me be hyper-focused on the task at hand so that I wouldn't have any trouble documenting what the task was that I completed every 30 minutes. So I didn't really sidetrack like I usually do. And, you know, if I was working on emails for 30 minutes, that 30 minutes I was following up on emails. And if something drew my eyes one way, I'd be like, nope, this is email time. Once I stopped the clock and then went on to my next task to strategize on a proposal, I heard the email ping and I was like, nope, now is not the email time. Now I'm focused on the strat. So I know that's not always a practice that is easy to do. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm very much a serial tasker and not at all a single tasker. So it was really a liberating experience for me personally to single task and to be focused on that. So I think that I hope that it's incorporating some better habits for me, and I'll keep you guys posted, but just wanted to plug that great app again. If you didn't get to check it out, it is free. It's called Toggle, T-O-G-G-L. So please check it out. And one of the things that we kind of focused on last week was the fact that the bad news is time flies, but the good news is that you're the pilot. And when I heard that quote, my mind was blown, because truly we do have control over how we use that time. Okay, so we're going to build off of that this week into a topic that I am very excited to share with you on the environment around us in the company that we keep. Okay, now on to this week. So I posted a quote earlier in the week from Tony Robbins, and it was, who you spend time with is who you become. What and who you surround yourself with has such great power, and hopefully that power is being used for good and not evil. So in your environment and in your surroundings, in the company that you keep, are those things guiding you, or are they keeping you from becoming the person that you want to be? So we found the time last week, and we started to exercise and practice how we're utilizing that time. And we're going to get into some habits here in the next few weeks of things that we can be doing during that time to be more productive, to reach those goals that we're setting for ourselves this year. So it's not just how we're spending our time, it's who we're spending our time with. Now, there are so many places I contemplated going on this episode, and I decided not to make it an identify the toxic people in your life workshop. I think we all know very well who those people are that are not serving you. We do need to take the time to, periodically consider that, but I didn't want to emphasize and focus on that today, but I did want to explore is identifying the types of people that are going to help lift you up to new heights, and also give you some tactics on how to identify gaps in the company you keep and how to fill those gaps. So I will do this with 2 anecdotes. And the first one comes from my personal development professional, one of my favorites. And I actually haven't shared her with you all yet, and her name is Stacy Flowers. And I had the pleasure of going to a conference just about a year ago where Stacy was a keynote speaker at the conference. She's a certifiable badass, and she's faced many trials in her upbringing and her young adult life, and decidedly she made the decision and she put the practice to come out on top. So the keynote that she gave actually went on to be a TED Talk, or previously was a TED Talk, and I will include it in the show notes. But I wanted to pull out a couple of great things that she shared, I made note of, and I've tried to keep in mind as I've progressed through the last year since hearing that great bit of advice. So I know that I mentioned the Tony Robbins quote, but there's another great quote that says, you are the sum or the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most. So Stacy went on to unpack that a little bit further, and she talked about the 5 types of people that you need to succeed and be happy in life. The people that are going to help you unleash your talents, to allow you to make your impact in the world. And also how to see the possibilities before pointing out the problems was really the focal point of her speech. She talked about how relationships have the deepest impact, the deepest level of impact on our happiness. And the quote that she really alluded to that I mentioned before is actually from Jim Rohn, and it is, you're the average of the 5 people you choose to associate with most, because it is a choice who you're picking to spend your time with. So Stacy characterized these 5 people that you should have in your life as the cheerleader, the mentor, the coach, the friend, and the peer. So she started with the cheerleader, and she gave the cheerleader the thumbs up. As you go through, you'll notice the hand gestures I'm giving, if you're watching on the YouTube, are on purpose. So she gives the cheerleader the thumbs up. The cheerleader is your number 1 fan, pumps you up, gasses you up, and gets you back on track, helps to get you unstuck, and gives you those encouraging words. If you're like me, your mom is your number 1 fan. Okay, so that's the cheerleader. Next, she pointed out the mentor. The mentor points you in the right direction. A mentor can be formal or informal. So when you think about mentors, you could have plenty of folks that are online that help guide you towards the mindset you want to have, or help guide you towards the financial success that you want to have. So that would be your mentor, okay? Then we have the coach. And I'm not going to give this finger alone because it is the middle finger. This is the middle finger, and the coach is meant to make you a little uncomfortable so that you can maximize your potential, okay? So think of growing up in your childhood, that coach that you had that really saw your potential and pushed you beyond limits that you couldn't even see yourself. That is characterized as the coach. So next, that brings us to the friend, and the friend is the ring finger. Your friend stays connected to your heart. So your friends know your truest heart desires, your passion, what lights you up, what sets you on fire. Sets your heart on fire, not sets you on fire. It's early, okay? So that is your ring finger, and that is your friends. Connected to your truest passions and desires. Next, we have our pinky finger. And our pinky finger is our peer. So what's different from friend to peers is that our peers are perhaps connected to our industry, or perhaps connected to our social circles and situations. So it might be a little bit more industry-based the way that you look at it. So your peers will keep your head in the game. Okay, so your peers are people that are connected more so to your career or to your day-to-day work, your colleagues, people like that keep you connected to that. Keep your head in the game that you're in. So I'll give you an example. My sister and I connect all the time about all things. She's my best friend, but we connect about, personal situations. We connect about how we miss each other, we can't wait to see each other, we connect about our passions, our purpose, and all of that. But really, when you think about my sister and I's relationship, she works in a very different field than I do. So when we talk about industry-related things or career-related things, I can pump her up and hope to inspire and give her some optimism hacks, and she does the same for me. But when it comes to actually knowing the day-to-day of what I do and the day-to-day of what she does, we don't quite connect on that level. So it's so important to make sure we have those folks that are our peers that can keep our head in the game that we're in as well. So what I encourage you to do is write all of these 5 things down. So cheerleader, mentor, coach, friend, and peer. Of the company you keep, where do the folks reside? You can have more than one, so don't think you've got to have 5 people and that's all you can have, but these are the 5 types of people that you want to make sure you have, and you have a well-balanced group of folks that are in your corner, in your court, helping you out. And identify where your gaps are. Personally, I often find that my gaps are in the coach and mentor categories. So that's where I've really focused in this year specifically. And I'll share some tips at the end of how to fill those gaps. But that's the first anecdote, is really understanding those 5 types of people and deciding where you need to grow, okay? All right, and the next challenge or the next anecdote that I want to share with you is an anecdote of my own. And I like to call it, it's time to farm up. And you might be thinking, level up? Yes, level up, the company you keep. But I'm going to share it in an anecdote that resonates with me that might resonate with you as well. It comes with a little storytelling, and I'll be honest, my mom recently shared with me that she loves when I share my ball is life stories and some of my past athletic situations. So, and to be honest, my mom is a saint like Dorothy Mantooth, so I'm going to oblige, and I got to deliver. So does anybody else have the most vivid dreams that take you back to your childhood events? Go ahead and nod and agree if you do. Well, I have this one that it's recurring for me, and it relates to softball. Yes, I'm that much of a geek that all day I dream about sports. My softball dream is always around the same theme, royally screwing up. Either I'm late to the game, everybody's waiting on me, haven't even warmed up, and I have to go out there and throw the pitch. I get out there, can't throw a strike. Also, I have this one frequently where I'm at bat, and I literally can't stop hitting foul balls. It's like a never-ending boomerang loop after loop after loop, foul ball after foul ball. And as a pitcher, it's funny and it's ironic because it's the most infuriating thing. So it's kind of ironic to me that I'm the batter in this situation. I'm going to have to open up a dream book and crack into the meaning of that one. But this dream led me to think about some of my softball experiences and how it relates as I woke up to write this episode. And last night's feature brought me back to a memory of playing up with my sister's team. So I mentioned my sister just moments ago, as she's 2 years older than me. And if you have an older sister, older brother, I wanted to be just like her. I was that annoying younger sister. So in this particular dream, I was brought up to pitch for her team, and I could not throw a strike. The end result was a huddle of older, more talented ball players hating on me, pissed off, upset. And inside, I told myself I don't belong here. I felt myself getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then I woke up. Does anybody else have that feeling right after a dream where there is this, what feels like a solid minute where you just sit there in shame of something that didn't actually happen, not yet realizing it wasn't a dream, and feeling embarrassed for whatever just went down? How am I going to live that down? And then you have that sigh of relief when you realize that it's just going to be kept between you and your eyelids. So anyway, that dream brought me to a familiar experience that got me thinking about a common theme that I want to maintain in my life. One that is relevant to this week, which I call farming up. You might call level up. So if you grew up in a sports family, it is likely that you've heard the term farming up. It was a common one in my household. The term farm out is where it originated, and it's to send an athlete to a farm team. And I'll elaborate. And here's actually a fun fact. A farm team originated when a joke was passed around by major league players in the 1930s. The St. Louis Cardinals GM, Branch Rickey, formalized the minor league feeder system, and teams in small towns were growing players down on the farm like corn. I thought that was funny. So at our league growing up, you had several brackets of play, 8 and under 10 and under 14, etc. And as a young growing player on the softball diamond, we were allowed to farm up as needed. If my sister's team was down a player, I could suit up and join them for a game or for an entire tournament, playing out of my league, if you will. And the dream that I had, which led to this recollection, which led to this whole notion that I'm sharing, got me thinking, are there areas of your life that you could be farming up or playing beyond your league? Now, there's a lot of literature, a lot of fun quotes, a lot of thought-provoking tweets or memes out there, a lot of great songs too, Sierra, to level up your company. I know I'd shared a book that I read earlier this year, which was called High Performance Habits, and he had a section, Brendan Burchard, on how extraordinary people become that way. And he writes about the practice of leveling up your squad and how to build what you need. Have you ever heard the quote, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room? Several variations of this has been quoted by many successful leaders, entrepreneurs. Do you ever find that you're in the wrong room? Sure, it feels comfortable, but where are you going? Are you stuck in cruise control? Let's get out of that. So thinking about those 5 types of people that you want to have in your life, and also thinking about the whole essence of if I'm the smartest or the toughest or the most athletic or the most successful in the room, maybe I need to find somebody to put in the mix that challenges me a little bit more and not get too comfortable with where I'm sitting. So what I've found myself lately doing is really diving into a lot of literature, a lot of books, a lot of influencers that I follow on social media that have the mindset and have the success that I want to have. So I feel lately that I have really been putting a lot of focus and emphasis on the mindset that I want to have, and really surrounding at least the media I consume, and of course the people I surround myself with match up with that very nicely, in that mindset piece of how I want to think and how I want to behave to be able to produce the results that I want to get. And speaking of this farming up, leveling up mentality, one of the ways that I took this recently was time hop came up actually. I first really started getting into running 6 years ago. And I previously was not a runner, was an athlete, was athletic, but could not think about running more than a mile without stopping. And I found a friend, she encouraged me to run a half marathon, and since then I really have enjoyed the community, the camaraderie, the competition, and the challenge that is racing. So I found myself recently over the last year kind of falling off of that mentality and that challenge of pushing my limits and seeing what I'm capable of doing. And part of that was I thought 2020 was going to be the year that I'd run my first marathon. All races are canceled. I kind of made the excuse that, okay, I can't run without a race. That is false. You can get out and lace up and run wherever you are. It's a mental thing. So I, was introduced to this new friend that has run several marathons. She's run some half Ironmans, and she asked me if I wanted to be her running partner. And I'm like, shoot, I haven't ran more than 2 miles in a minute. But I kind of looked back to this framework, and I said, I need to level up in this area. I need to farm up out of my league. I need to run with somebody who's been there, done that. And we've now spent a couple of weeks, Anna and I, running, and it's been a really great challenge for me. So that's an area of my life that I've leveled up, because if the company you keep is not challenging you to reach new heights, or not is sparking that fire or reminding you of something that you wanted to accomplish that's maybe collected dust, you're going to have a hard time making that happen. So shout out to Anna. She's helped me level up over the last few weeks. And think of an area in your life where you're looking to level up. Do you know somebody in your community that can help you do that? So some takeaways that I wanted to share to close out this episode today is we talked about those 5 folks that you want to have in your corner. We also talked about just the element of leveling up your company that you keep in the areas that you want to stretch and reach for more. So I want you to think about, where do some of those stretch goals reside for you? Where are some of the places that you really, really want to bust out of that comfort zone and make some magic happen? So when thinking about that, first I want you to ask yourself, who has done what you were aiming to do? Who has done something that aligns with your purpose? Is it somebody at your workplace? Is it your community? Is it somebody at a local charity? Is it somebody on social media, or maybe even another social setting? So think about who has done what you're trying to do. Next thing I want you to do is, at your workplace, inquire. At your community, at your church, ask if there's any sort of formal mentorship or coaching program. I find that those 2 of the 5 that I mentioned Stacy had shared with us, coaching and mentoring, tend to be 2 of the most common gaps. So I would reach out, ask if that type of program exists. Don't be discouraged if a mentor program doesn't exist. If there is an influencer that you follow on social media, or some of the various platforms, they might have a coaching or mentoring program that you can subscribe to. That's actually how I got started with, I mentioned Brendon Burchard's book, and he had this coaching program, and I just finished my 12 weeks, and it was so very helpful. So folks like Brendon, Jay Shetty, Rachel Hollis are a few that I follow, and they all have their very own virtual coaching program. Or if now's not the time that you're able to spend money on something like that, you can find a budget-friendly or a free route. So you don't always have to pay money to find. There's so many great free resources out there. There's YouTube channels. Man, there's so much. Podcasts. I also recommend attending events related to the field or arena that you're trying to grow in. There's so many virtual events lately. In these events, you can be connected to people that are doing the things you aspire to do. Ask them how they do it. Take notes and keep in touch. You can always identify a mentor that would be a perfect fit for you and ask them too. Don't be shy. Mentors don't always have to be a formal exchange. And it's also likely that you have several other influencers that you see as mentors. But make sure those people that you see as mentors are pointing you in the right direction that you want to go. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. I am thrilled to be on this journey with you. What we've talked about so far is we've laid out the foundation of that purpose statement. We've taken a look at the journey and the destination. We've taken a look at time and auditing our time and making sure we are the pilot and we're directing it in the right direction. This week we talked about the company we keep and how the knowledge that you are the average of the 5 people you associate with most is helpful. Knowledge is power. But how do we identify those 5 types of people that we want in our life? And what do we do from there when we find that there's some gaps? We talked about leveling up, or farming up as I like to call it in my sports world. And from here, what we're going to do in the next episode is we are going to talk about, now that we've found the time and now that we've maybe polished out that who we associate with list, some of the barriers that we usually would find are going to subside. And it's going to allow us to take the time and to take the company to create habits that stick. High performance habits that stick is what next week is going to be on. All right, folks. So if you're not already following on the social media platforms, would love to see you on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Oddly Enough Podcast. All of the ways that you can engage with the show, including the merchandise website I'd mentioned moments ago, is at linktree/Oddly Enough Podcast. In addition, wanted to share as well. Always would love to hear any feedback you have. If you listened to this episode, you found something helpful, screenshot it, post it on your story. I'd love to see how you're using some of the tactics that we've been exploring in this series, and share it with a friend, of course. And also, if you're on Apple Podcasts, would love to see a review on there too. That's the best way to review and share the show so that other folks can find it. All right, everyone. Thank you so very much. I have to go facilitate a training now, so caught you early, got my coffee, ready to rock, ready to roll. So thanks everyone so much again, and have an awesome day. And remember, we are well by design. Bye, y'all.